One of the biggest stumbling blocks and hurdles that people think of before they go on a trip relates to everything with the finances. But honestly, the biggest issue that folks need to grapple with as they're on the field, not before or after, but as they're on the field, is team dynamics. I was leading a team one time, and we arrived in the location, and we had a quarrel between two of the team members, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, one of the team members just really gets frustrated when people take their shoes off. And on the flight over to the country we were going, the person that she sat next to took her shoes off on every flight. So when we arrived in that location, we had a battle between our two team members before we even got started. One of the things that I want to point out in a real and tangible way is that it is crucial to create the foundation of your trip ahead of time so that you know when you're on the field, that foundation is prayer and time in the Word. Start praying before you go, but when you get on the field, when you arrive in your location, as you're going to your location, pray. Have a commitment to prayer and have a commitment to having daily time with God. Dive into the Word, both individually and corporately. I'd like you to read Acts 2:42. That's really important. Maybe you guys could stand up and read that as a group. It's really important. Or if you're watching individually, read that verse and focus on that. Because when you think about what's the foundation, if you're able to have those two things as kind of the cornerstone, then the diversity and differences that come about between the team, like that one I talked about before, the taking the shoes off, you're able to come to compromise and work things out. Because teams are diverse. Any way we cut it, there's no way around it. People are different. We need to capitalize on those differences to make our experience more and more powerful. So, respect one another. And when you respect one another, then that starts to build trust. And once you start to build trust, then you can communicate well. And then there's collaboration and interdependence. And you finally get to a point where there's shared responsibility. So like that story that I started with, where there are two people who couldn't even talk to each other because of these underlying frustration, they were able to pray together, read Scripture together, and then start to go on this process to work things out. And finally, at the end, they were leading this team, that team, in a real and tangible way.
Focusing on your team dynamics really is important. And the way that you learn to communicate and the way that you trust each other as a team does unify your team. And imagine if you're going out and you're serving in another country and one person wants to do one thing and another person wants to do another thing. When you're not unified, then your ministry is not as effective. So being unified as a team, it starts now. It starts before the trip. So take time, as we do before every session, to connect with each other. That's a part of being unified together as a team. Ask each other questions, challenge each other, learn from each other, because then when you get onto the field and you start serving with each other, you really will be a team. We don't use that word team lightly. A team has to be unified. Just like when you're playing a sport, a team has to be unified in order to accomplish the goal that they're seeking to accomplish. So work on establishing that unity now before the trip. And then during the trip, make sure that you're maintaining that unity. As Andrew said, there's always little things that come up here and there that want to break into that unity and break you apart. But make sure that you are focusing on maintaining that unity. There's some verses there that are in this guidebook that help you focus and bring everyone back to the same page of the importance of unity in your team.
So, don't forget, don't run by the importance of starting the foundation for team dynamics here before you've gone. Take time to prioritize that in your times together and in your times apart.